Good morning, Madam Chair, and good morning, Madam Commissioner. It is my understanding that you have had a meeting with mayors and representatives from several European cities, and that in that meeting you promised them that a better cooperation between platforms and local authorities would be one of the preconditions for a proper implementation and enforcement of the Digital Services Act. So my question here is, will the DSA include a compulsory instrument or a compulsory tool in order for the local authorities to get the data from the platforms, like for instance Airbnb, for their law enforcement, for instance, to protect their tenants? So will there be a proper tool for this exchange of data in the DSA? The second question, you already have touched upon the partially monopolized digital internal market, and the DSA will hopefully then also address interoperability and will enhance regulation and transparency. But still the question of the dominating position of only a few companies needs to be properly addressed. So I'm wondering if you would also go the extra mile here and go for, let's say, a breakup of monopolies in the digitalized or in the digital internal market. And with this regards, my last question concerning a strong liability regime. It is also my understanding that the Digital Services Act might include a so-called Good Samaritan clause. Facebook foresees a board of like 20 persons who will decide on which and what will be monitored and filtered, but wouldn't it be necessary, or shouldn't there be a legal obligation to be more transparent for the platforms? Shouldn't there be more public control, and shouldn't we as lawmakers be more ambitious and impose a stronger liability regime also on these platforms? Thank you very much for answering my questions.
Well, thank you very much. Some of them I may not be able to answer yet because, you know, we're not done with the drafting of the two proposals. It is indeed correct. I met with a number of mayors of large European cities who have mixed experiences with, in particular, Airbnb platforms that allows for citizens to re-rent their apartment or houses. They had different experiences. Some had a very straightforward good cooperation. Some had a more mixed one. I think they all had a sense that it's a good thing, but it has to be balanced in order, for instance, for prices not to get artificially high, not because people want to live in the city, but because people want to have an apartment that they can rent out on one of those platforms. The data question, what data should be provided for authorities, we have not concluded on that. One of the things that will obviously be of help would be the obligation to know your customer. That, for instance, you need to know who it is that you're dealing with, and that, of course, would also entail that you become sort of more official when you know who's on this platform, and you yourself, as a user of a platform, will have to realize, well, I will have to identify myself in a way that people can actually find me as to what I'm doing here, so that I live up to local rules. And I think it's important to make space for local rules, because they are today very different. In some cities, they say, well, you can rent out your apartment 40 days of a year. In other cities, it's more. In some cities, they have made agreements for Airbnb to collect the tourist tax. In others, they have not. So I think it's very important to leave space for decentralized agreements, but to put in the right set of rights. And indeed, we had a very good conversation, and I do hope that the mayors will find that the Digital Services Act will provide for them a legislative framework that gives a good and balanced relationship with platforms in their cities. When it comes to breaking up of companies, I think this would indeed be doable in Europe if we had a case that would take that as a remedy. But so far, we have not had competition cases that would lead us to think that this is the only remedy that would be the right thing to do in this situation. So I don't think that it is something that should be introduced in this legislation. And I think one should be very careful with that kind of remedies, because one should be very sure how it would actually work. It would tie you up in court for a very, very long time. And I think it is important that we try these routes first to make sure that platforms, with the role that they play in the European economy, that they adhere to this with the inspiration, as said, coming from the Parliament. When it comes to liability, this is the discussion that we're still having. We think more about responsibility. In order to make sure that a platform is not liable for each and every individual post or each individual item that is uploaded for sale, but that they are responsible to have a system that makes sure that they can prevent counterfeit or dangerous products to be sold on their platforms, or for illegal expressions actually to be on platforms. And that responsibility, I think it is for platforms to have. Thank you.